So that day with John doing Pop the Clutch, it was quite possibly the funniest moment of 2017 for me as far as car troubles went.
Oh,
but
dude.
it was he was he was yelling. By the way, he just showed up to the parking lot. He was coming on. I was gonna go to a different station, and the car wouldn't start. And John's he's ready. He's like, all right, let's just pop the clutch. And I'm like, holy smokes, we're doing this.
I don't know what that means.
We're gonna do this.
So, yeah, he went into full millennial mode and didn't understand what pop the clutch meant.
Didn't have the skinny jeans power, did he?
No.
God dang it, flat bill was not
So,
helping.
yeah, after a couple tries, he said, so I think we're having a little bit of a communication
Yeah.
issue with the pop the clutch. I don't know what that means.
I couldn't breathe because he's just going, pop it, just pop it.
You need to pop it.
So it turns out that a squirrel got underneath and ate his wiring harness, so it wasn't
Yeah,
actually the
that'll
battery.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overnight, and apparently they don't make wiring harnesses for Ford Focuses because they don't go bad.
Well,
So-
and they're throwaway vehicles usually.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
a huskier type person is in the Focus, but
yeah. This Focus is just rambling on its last leg, coming down the road. Just
hey man, you got get in where you fit in, man.
Yeah.
The Focus, gets the job done. AB.
All right. Well, welcome to the pilot episode of Trash
Fire.
Oh,
Trash
yeah.
fire.
Why trash fire, though?
Trash and fire.
Yep.
Right.
So, yeah, I think we're all professional firefighters here. We don't think, super highly of ourselves. We do a great job.
Yep.
We're able to do the fire end as well as the paramedic stuff, but we didn't want to come off as too cocky,
Yeah.
on our two legs walking around. So trash fires to us, pretty easy solution, right?
Yeah.
Usually
Yeah.
no exposures. You're going to take a bumper line, put it out. So we're here talking a little trash,
Yeah.
talking about fire. We're going to have some real subjects
Oh yeah.
with some real content today
Yep.
on our pilot episode of Trash Fire.
Little introductions. Your host today, John, a.k.a. Big John. Don't know how he got that name.
Big and ugly, John. How about that one?
And I'm Jeremy Shear. I don't have a nickname that I know of, at least not one that's said to my face, even though before the episode John tried to give me one. John, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah.
I will say this. I've never listened to a podcast. I've never seen a podcast, so this is all new to me.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can have a pretty awesome pilot episode, and we'll continue from there. So,
It's-
but I'm totally excited, and we'll see where this goes.
I think the saying goes, fake it until you make it.
That's right. We're going to do that.
Dude, how awesome was the Seattle stair climb?
Well, I will say as a team, right, Eugene Springfield, and we had some Junction City folks
Yep.
up with us.
Yeah.
How many competitors do we have total? 16?
I think it was 16.
16?
Yeah, big group.
Big group. We helped contribute to the Lymphoma and Leukemia Society.
Yeah.
They raised a total of, $2.4 million?
Yeah, and for those of you listening, if you can remember later on, if you want to donate, I'm not going to tell you the website because I'm sure none of you have a pen and paper, but just go to Google, Scott Firefighter Stair Climb in Seattle. You have till March 30th if you want to do that. So great cause. Yeah, dude, that was a ton of fun. It's crazy. You climb 69 floors, and you think about it as a firefighter, you're proud. You're like, this isn't going to be that difficult. You're going up. I forget the elevation. It's like 788 feet or something of elevation.
Yeah, it's like 1,300 and some odd steps.
Yeah. It kicks your butt. Like, it is a mental game as much as it is physical.
Absolutely. But great cause. We had a great crew. We had some stellar performances from some people that
Holy
really
smokes.
trained hard.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
What was it? 14:01
Yeah.
was his time. And that was a personal best for him. Shannon Clausen.
Oh, yeah, Shannon crushed it.
Crushed it. So we had a lot of really, really awesome times coming from our group. I won't talk about mine. I was there to contribute, partake in the festivities, but we'll leave my time out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. The pipes and drums afterwards, good time. And,
Awesome.
And the other festivities. that firefighters like to do. Good times. Before we introduce our guest, we gotta do a couple things. A disclaimer. We have to let you know before we say anything wrong or offensive. Our opinions, beliefs, comments, thoughts, and future thoughts, they do not represent that of the Department of Eugene Springfield Fire and Local 851. So it's purely John and I. It's us. So if you're offended, talk to us about it. But we don't believe we're going to do that, and we're super excited to kick this thing off. And John and I, I think it was about a year and a half ago, we talked about doing this. It was after a union meeting. We were all fired up, ready to change things and just be a positive light into our community and whatnot. And we decided that, our goal for this podcast is to kind of further propel ourselves into the millennial lifestyle.
Oh, boy.
And talk with department members. Hopefully next in the coming episodes we'll get survivors and patients that we've had and talk to them, and other brothers and sisters like today involved in the service, and individuals involved with city government leaders, etc. Like, really excited to get the people that we can on here, especially today. Our guest, we'll just go right into it. Seth McEwen. Seth.
Hey,
hi.
Good afternoon.
Seth is, for those of you who don't know, John's brother. He is a father, recently promoted captain, played UVO football, and he is an all-around rock star. And he still has hair, which John doesn't. So
this is true.
I can pick on you, John, because bald is beautiful, and I am too. But you still got it.
I appreciate that. I can't take much credit for it, though. I don't know how long I will have it, though.
Well, Seth, I got to know, looking at you two, I don't consider myself a small person, but I feel extremely small next to both of you.
We get that a lot.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, growing up, did you guys, did mom and dad, did they, butcher a cow before each meal and you guys just feast? Famine just going on there.
Yeah, anybody who's eaten with John and I understand the speed in which we eat. And they're always like, why do you eat so fast? It's like, well, if you don't get your firsts down really fast, you don't get seconds. Because it's crock pot cooking, man. You better be getting in there, and there's elbows, and there's some fighting going on. So, that's where a lot of our size came from, is eating when we can, what we could. And, it was pretty crazy in the old McEwen household.
You guys got other siblings too, or?
Yeah, we have a little brother. He's 25 years old, named Mike down there, and he's still getting his feet up underneath him, but he's part of the family as well.
And where did you grow up at?
Medford, Oregon, down south,
Medford.
right at the border. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Medford, Ashland, right there.
What is that high school? Black Tornadoes.
Yeah, the Black Tornado.
Or Tornado.
It's one huge team of tornadoes into one tornado. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Awesome. Well, let's kind of start from the beginning. Let's get to know you a little bit. We already talked about where you're from, but let's just talk about growing up, like sports and things of that nature. Like what was childhood like for you at the household? And
yeah, childhood was pretty good. John and I would probably be surprised to know that we were not super athletes when we were younger. We were BMXers.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would be quite the sight to see today.
Yeah, today. John, really amazing on a bike. Even today, he could do some really good tricks.
Oh, my gosh. We should have brought one in.
But, yeah, we were BMXers. We didn't want anything to do with football or anything like that. We had our bikes, and we used to ride all over Medford as kids because our parents worked a lot. And that was it. That was the team, and we were hooligans.
Complete hooligans.
Complete hooligans. We had no rules. No rules.
Yeah, no boundaries.
No boundaries.
Yeah.
Lots of law enforcement contacts.
Oh,
yes.
So that was our sport, getting in chases and, just general kid stuff.
Yeah.
Just mischievousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does a story stick out for you, too, that, look at you.
What's the statute of limitations?
I don't know.
I have to consult a lawyer.
Yeah, I cannot really confirm or deny any.
I forget about the laws and things.
Yeah.
There's things. Not just kid things, not a big deal.
Yeah.
Sure.
Nothing too serious, but just general
tomfoolery.
Tomfoolery, if you will.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What At what age did you start getting some size, start looking into sports? And
well, John was really forged the way for looking at sports because we didn't have much guidance. Our parents were great parents, but they just worked a lot. He got into football and saw some really good changes, as far as a structured life. And so I just kind of walked in the footsteps of John. But he's just was tremendous athlete, a hard name to live up to. Black Tornado football. I know we're talking high school, but I didn't start. I was 9th grade. I was 6'4", about 185 pounds.
Oh, that's it.
But skinny, yes. But I mean, skinny as rail. I didn't start putting on size until I got a little bit older, and 19, 20, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Started getting in the 260 range. Which is still pretty small for where I played at U of O there.
Still, that's I can't imagine being walking down the hallway. We had a guy in high school, and I mean, he went and played for U of O, and then another guy who they were close friends. He went and played for the Beavers, and the three of us, when we would hang out, it was quite entertaining. It was just like these two towers next to me, just big dudes, and just me in the middle. I was scrawny and couldn't.
Well, you can pick a fight with anybody then. Usually the scrawny guy is always off in the corner picking a fight. You're like, oh, here we go.
Well, I mean, it hasn't really changed much for me. They used to, pick me up and pretty much treat me like a rag doll, which is similar to the Firehouse lifestyle. Play anything else besides football growing up?
Did track and field.
Okay.
And, John did track and field as well, so it's kind of followed that. It was really fun. It was like a good, just pleasant waste of time.
Yeah.
Got to travel around through the disc and shot, nothing too involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who was, did you guys ever compete against one another, Or what's the age difference?
Yeah, so we're 5 years apart.
Okay.
So he's a little bit younger. So we never competed on the same teams.
Okay.
Yeah. That would have been great.
That would have been
a great time. It would have been something pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we are separated by 5 years, so we never competed on the same teams. We didn't have to compete for the same, position. But I will say, obviously Seth, full ride, Division I program.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And, when he got there, he had to work for it. But, was a starter for 3 years there at Oregon, and probably played on arguably one of the best defenses in the history of, Oregon football. They called it gangrene. Yeah.
It was a little bit past my era, but we came into Oregon at a time where we were one of the top defenses as compared to today. But, very much a lot of ill-dispositioned folks on that defense. Definitely had a bit of violence going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you had you were a D lineman, you were a D end, right?
Sure.
So you had Haloti Nada, you had
Igor Shansky.
Yeah.
The thing is that they wanted me to play tight end, but then they found out I couldn't catch. They found out I wasn't smart enough, and then I had a hard time following directions. So they said, you're defensive end now because we don't have much use for you anywhere else. A gap, B gap is the inside joke for a D lineman.
Oh, man. When I was in high school, I played some football, and it's super strange. I thought I was going to go D1, D1 kicker, but
D1 kicker.
Those are the smart ones. That's a good one.
They self-proclaimed me best tackling kicker in the state.
That's a good title to have.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, people came up to me and I just grabbed on their jersey and held on until
fall
the
to the ground.
guys come. Yeah,
fall to the ground.
That's
the best thing.
I'll never forget my dad. He was so happy that I was playing football, and he invited like all his friends, and it was at his alma mater growing up. And I'll never forget. He invited everybody, and of course, the guy breaks through the entire group, and I'm the last guy, on the kickoff, and so I just leap and just grab this guy. And he's dragging me. I think he dragged me 15 yards. And by the time they tackled him and I got up, I just been dragged through all the mud. It was a wet, rainy football game. And I stood up, and it was right there on the sidelines, right where my dad was. Proud moment, right? My face, face mask just covered in grass. Couldn't even see him. I was like, hey, Dad, I did it.
I did it, Dad.
So, yeah. Well, that's awesome. Do you feel like that time at U of O, early on, kind of shaped you, kind of changed you a little bit? You're kind of in that young adulthood at that point where you're getting loose of the parents and kind of changing who you are as a person. Do you think that was a influential time for you, or did that come later on?
No, that was when you show up to U of O, you get the scholarship, right? And they wine and dine you and say, "Hey, come to our school." And you show up for your first day, and they don't know your name. It's true. They don't care anymore because they focus their time on the starters. That's who gets the reps, right? That's what's paying the $100 million a year to the program. You have to prove yourself. And I thought in high school, a man amongst boys, that I had it figured out. But then you have to reestablish what hard work looks like. And that's the thing that I learned was it's a blue-collar working thing, a rusty lunchbox every day. And no one pays attention to you until you get that opportunity, right? And that's what happens is I trained for a year and a half. And nobody coached me because you redshirt, nobody cares. Coaching myself in film. So I'd get a separate cut. I'd hound our audiovisual guy, hey, give me a cut, give me a cut. He's like, damn, okay, fine, I'll give you a friggin' cut. And I'd sit I'd look at the first one defense, see what they're doing, and then I'd look at what I was doing in scout team. Yeah. So I spent a good 2 years coaching myself, trying to get there, and nobody paid attention. But then you get this one shot. I think we can all identify with that, whether it's football, firefighting. You prepare it quietly and humbly, and then all of a sudden you get that one shot to make a name for yourself, and you only get one time, right? Yeah. But I've been preparing diligently for that shot, and then I made the best of it, and that's what my starting career started, was right there. Wow. Yeah, so that's what I learned is always work hard and look for opportunities, right? Yeah. Make your own luck in a way.
Yeah, I kind of noticing this year for the stair climb, I didn't have as much preparation as I would have hoped for, and right before the climb, I was so nervous. And I was thinking back, I was like, last year I wasn't nervous, and last year I got my best time, and it was because I'd prepared so much. So, just what you're saying kind of reminds me of that. You prepare, and when that moment comes, you just completely seize it.
You have to.
Awesome. So, having you on today, I really wanted to talk about training and leadership, and I've talked with John, and this seems like a kind of a topic that I really wanted to get into. So, what type of leadership did you grow up with, at home, and then during sports and stuff like that?
That's a good question. My parents were just blue-collar workers. Medford at the time in the 80s had no industry. It was a mill town. So the only thing available was restaurant work. So my mom worked 3 jobs as a waitress. My dad was a truck driver. And just working long haul, and they busted their ass. They had no excuses. They didn't complain about it, and they were working for minimum wage at times. And they did an excellent job, right? They both rose in their positions in the management position just from working hard. Yeah. And so we didn't have necessarily that guidance of this is what you ought to be doing, but they set this example of just unbelievable hard work, just a work ethic that I don't think I've ever seen before. And so that was leadership, is just work hard and don't expect anything for it, though. Work hard. A lot of people, they work hard in hopes that they're going to reach that goal, and sometimes it doesn't happen. And you just got to keep working harder, and then you got to push yourself to work even harder than you think you can. And so that's what they taught us. And then when we got into football, I think that's when some of the coaches started paying attention, and they saw things in us that we necessarily didn't see ourselves. Steve Turner, Coach Turner, was a huge influence. He was, I think, somebody that grew up a little rambunctious himself and saw – John and I, these super stubborn, aggressive kids with very little guidance, and he, took the patience to kind of get us on the right track. So, I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for some of that stuff.
Yeah, sure. John, you concur?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, some of the coaches that we were under, especially Steve Turner, great guy, kind of, forged an identity of who we were to become later on, and that was just through hard work, good work ethic, and putting in the time to be whatever goal that is that you're trying to obtain, to put in the work to obtain that goal.
Sure. When did you get into the fire service?
I got in the fire service, so I was finishing up at U of O and didn't really know. I was thinking law enforcement and all that kind of stuff, because I wouldn't say it was easier. It's just a lot of hiring. They hire a huge amount of people, and it's not a guarantee, but it's better than 12 to 14 on the fire side with 1,000 applicants, right? Yeah. And my wife, who was a world-class pole vaulter, her coach, Mark Vanderville, he's captain here at Eugene Springfield, and he was her coach. And so I started talking with him and talking with John and kind of get a feel for, the opportunities with the fire service, and just fell in love with it. Just the opportunity to hang out, train hard, run calls, and then, practice what you preach in a lot of ways. That was very similar to the football arena. And then stress, the pressure. I liked all that stuff. That's when I was attracted. And so that I got into, went to paramedic school right after U of O. So 2003 to 2005, which is kind of a full circle life experience here because I was a Lane County Community, Lane Community College student.
Gotcha.
With my uniform on, reporting to Medic 9 at the time with Larry Schock and Rachel Smith were my FTEPs.
Okay.
So I definitely kind of grew up with Eugene Springfield Fire in a lot of ways. On that side of things. So about 2005, 2006 is when I finally got my first professional job.
At what point do you think maybe you saw a leader in someone in the fire service that you either tried to emulate or kind of take what they were doing and make it your own?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of examples that we all can see.
Sure.
If anything, I'm just going to use like more of the characteristics that I noticed with good leadership, and it doesn't have to be rank driven. I'm one of those guys that just thinks you have informal leaders, you have people on the team that are just, man, they got it. And what I see with that is, one is they're fair and equitable with their team.
Mm-hmm.
They take care of their guys and employees, and they don't mix words. They're pretty straightforward with things. There's not a lot of fluff with that. And so I identified with 1, take care of your people, 2, be fair and equitable with them, and 3, just speak the truth, right?
Yeah.
Be honest with what your team wants, and be humble and approachable. Those are some of the characteristics initially I picked up on as being pretty good.
I just recently started doing the FTEP thing at the department, and I didn't know it was going to be so challenging, and it's challenging. And John, I'm sure you can concur on this. It's challenging in the fact that you're kind of developing the leader you want to be at a learning curve. You're trying something. If it doesn't work, you come back, you kind of think it out, and then you try something else, and it's been pretty interesting. How have you been dealing with it, John?
Yes, I've been an FTEP for, I think this is a little over 2 years now, and some of the things that I tried to do with my probationary firefighter is, like my brother's saying, just be fair with them, consistent, and being very forthright with the expectations. And we do have the grading scale that we grade people on for each shift. But outside of that is just be approachable, be the coach / leader that you would want to work with, and help guide those new people to make them as good as they can possibly be. So I always try to reflect in a manner that who would I want to be led by, right? So like my brother's saying, being fair, being approachable, obviously being knowledgeable, but kind of being more of that coach role where it's not so much like authoritarian. It's more of like, hey, I'm here to work with you. I'm here to help you. I'm here for your success.
Sure.
And in doing that, it's very rewarding because you also become, you have to be subject matter in, in what you're teaching, right? So you become better as an individual yourself.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that it's almost hard sometimes to communicate, or get across exactly what you're trying to do. And I think what I've been coming to realize is, keeping it simple. You want to give them all the knowledge you got right away, but at the same time, maybe bits and pieces at a time are more appropriate for them and more easy for them to take it in and apply it. So
along those lines, I have a lot of bad examples, and we'll get to the end. But one of the things in football we call overcoaching. There's just too much too soon, and you get a player that starts to hesitate, they get confused, and they don't know whether to go blind, basically, because they don't know what's up or down. And the fire service, from my personal experience initially, was pretty good at doing that part, overcoaching, micro-coaching, oversaturation, to the point where recruits and new employees just are like, man, I don't know what you want. And now, it puts people in a tough position as opposed to more of a approach of, I'll give you some pointers, I'll give you a wide berth to kind of figure it out, and I'm going to keep narrowing that down over time, because we have time to get it done. We don't have to be in a hurry to get it done in 3 weeks. We can just kind of narrow down that focus, and I found that to be a little better way. They absorb a lot more, and they feel like you're on their side, because you are. You know, you want them to be successful, and that means being available all the time. I'm always available to my recruits. They can call me at 2 a.m. and say, I'm freaking out. Okay, cool, let's deal with this.
Yeah.
I attack in with John. It's like that approachability and truly the support. You're not just doing a job. You're trying to help them be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of makes me go back to thinking about what you were saying, John, about being that coaching role first. Mm-hmm. I asked a couple of my captains the other day, how do I, but before I started this whole FTEP journey, what are some tips, advice they had? And one of my captains talked about, a lot of people try to kind of be that friend role first, but I think it's a little bit easier to kind of keep the reins a little bit tighter, keep that coaching role, and as they kind of progress, kind of let them a little bit further and further away, and kind of let them develop and decide, what firefighter and what provider they're going to be. So, Seth, what you're newly promoted captain at Medford. What type of leadership do you identify as? We've kind of talked about you're approachable.
Yeah.
But are you there's the do your job captain,
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want to have to tell you anything, or you kind of talked about being a team player.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of leader do you look at yourself as?
Yeah, I think there's a sweet spot in the middle of all that. We look at when you're newly promoted captain from when you were a move up and all that, and then finally you're on the hook. It becomes really sobering that, okay, I actually have to formulate a long-term plan for my people. So the first approach I have is, one, being approachable, always coming back to that. Because of my size, I have to kind of step a little bit further into making it a super warm environment for people to approach me.
Yeah, luckily you smiled when you came in today, because I was like, holy smokes, this guy's big.
Yeah.
He's so tall.
And we don't really see it that way. Yeah. When we reflect other people, you look the same size to me in my mind. And it's weird to say that, but I don't. But if you have a camera, it's like this big, bigger person, right? So I have to be very you have to consider that whenever I'm dealing with anybody,
sure.
Really. So I try to overextend, keeping a warm environment, keeping it safe for people to feel approachable. 2, I definitely want to be fair with the crew whenever I can, and to take care of them as people. The people come first. Don't mistake my kindness as weakness, though, either.
Sure.
Right? There's always that little bit of an understanding that, I am the boss, but I don't have to ever say it.
Yeah.
Because I treat you fairly. Hopefully, you'll want to work for me.
Yeah.
The leadership part of it, that's a revocable privilege, in my opinion. Some people say respect the badge or respect the position. We start getting into some pretty, areas I'm not really comfortable with, just because when you start respecting the position, that means you have no respect for leadership in that position, potentially. So I'm very aware that I want them to just see me as a leader and want to work for me, as opposed to see me as a captain presence. That's just my thing.
Sure.
So I fall more into the 99%, 1% rule. Is 99%, I'm a blue-collar, rusty lunchbox carrying worker with the team.
Sure.
1% of the time, I've got to make decisions within the clutch, within those compression scenes, and at least guide something that's good.
Yeah.
And so that's how I kind of approach my leadership.
Leaders you look up to, do you have anybody in mind, someone maybe we all know, or maybe just someone back home? Or
Yeah, John. He's always been the older brother, and he's always been the leader between our relationship. He pretty much raised me when we were growing up.
Oh.
So, we spent a lot of time together, and I walked in his footsteps, but he was also super transparent with the mistakes he's made. And so a lot of my success as a younger brother was definitely tied to him saying, hey, don't do this.
Yeah.
These are things that I've learned, and he's been instrumental in getting me to a lot of these parts, right? Bouncing stuff off of him. And you guys know him here at this organization. Yeah. Super positive guy, 100% in for the employees, wants to help out whenever he can. So I've had the luxury of having that most of my life.
Yeah. What's interesting about you, John, is remembering you back, well, actually, even going to the recruit dinner, where you go and the people explain what's about to entail in this academy and stuff. I remember you were the first person that I walked in and saw. And I was like, oh, my God, I did not prepare for this. I thought I'd been hitting the gym and all this stuff. But instantly, even on the drill field, even when you were on light duty, I'm like, this guy's a leader. And it's kind of interesting to hear that maybe that was developed at a younger age for you, having to kind of lead your brother here and kind of show him, how your the McEwen family does it. Did you recognize that when you were growing up, or was it kind of just a natural feeling for you?
Like my brother said, we were basically alone, so
yeah.
Being the older brother, I just kind of took that role, kind of to protect my brother and keep us together, right?
Yeah.
So we've always kind of had a really good, obviously good brother relationship, but that type of experience really lends itself to the team atmosphere that we work in as in the fire service.
Yeah.
Because we don't do anything alone, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of wanting to contribute as just to protect my brothers and sisters that I work with, try to be the best that you can be, and I just love to work. I love working with people, and I'm just a positive person, in general by nature. I just look at every opportunity for someone that, whether it be in a recruit academy or if I can lend a hand, with our normal crew members, on our daily shifts. I just want to be a contributor, and I want to be available, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help a person, or I've been on the receiving end of help from other people as well.
Yeah.
So I think that going through EDP, if you're going through ODP, if you're just going through Recruit Academy, there's a lot of people that contribute to you as a person, and I am not. I've received that as well. So learning from other people, different ways to approach things, and seeing different the way to do approach people in general. I've been on the receiving that end as well, and it feels good.
Yeah.
So I want to perpetuate that in the fire service, and kind of anyone that I come in contact with.
Yeah, thinking of moments that we've had together as you as a leader, go back to the Ford Focus pop the clutch incident. I just remember looking to you as the leader in that situation.
Yeah.
And as successful as we wanted to be, we couldn't do it because that nasty squirrel wasn't going to happen. Had just destroyed it.
But we cleared up the old how to push start a car.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
It's a thing.
You just pop it.
Just pop it.
You look up a YouTube video, people, and just pop that clutch.
Pop that clutch.
And then another thing too, John, recently with you when we had a scene where you kind of guided me on a way to administer a medication, and it's funny you did it in such a tactful manner that it taught me something at the same time as it was almost entertaining.
Oh yeah, so absolutely. I remember the call.
Yeah, that was a interesting call to say the least.
Yep.
But Seth, as a new captain, I'm sure it's the same everywhere as far it seems like in the fire service, or very similar at least. You bring in a firefighter in the office, new firefighter, when he comes to your shift or whatever, and do you set out goals with that new crew member, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, expectations are huge, right? I think we all agree on that. We have to have clear expectations, and we're going to be excellent. Right, and I think that's a term in the fire service we don't ever talk about. I don't know why, but if you bring that up in a challenging tabletop discussion and you ask people, what does excellence mean to you? And that's kind of my first question to my new firefighter is, tell me what excellence is for you in this service, right? We get slogans like, jack of all trades and master of none. I can't tell you how much I dislike those terms. Not the people that use them, but it's an excuse not to be excellent, right? And we have to kind of pick and choose what we be excellent at. But I talk about the hosman's or the firefighter's field of operation, right? I mean, it's pretty wide, but still pretty narrow.
Yeah.
And I talk about what kind of hose pulls do they like to do. And I don't tell them how to do it. I'm just interested in what the best practice is. Have they been to nozzle forward? I really want to get to know that employee. And then we go train on it, right? We talk about the expectations, and then we go out there and we do it. Because if we're on a structure fire, and I need an alpha, stretch line to alpha, I'm not going to tell them how to do it. I'm not going to say, hey, I want a coil on alpha side front line. I'm not going to do that. I will trust this verification. I will, verify that they are proficient in all those different aspects, right? Mm-hmm. And I break it down to, 5 or 6 domains that I find are to be excellent at. And that's going to be our hose pull. Everything hose pull, right? I want them to be excellent. I'm talking side yard when someone cut down the junipers in their stubs at 2 a.m. and they're falling on their face with a hose on their shoulder, right?
Yeah.
Like I want them to be able to overcome those things, right? I'm not going to sit there and laugh at them. I mean, that's part of what we should be focusing on. Forcing the door and taking initiatives to force the door and scan with the camera so when my 360 is done, they have information for me while I'm suiting up, right? Ladders, excellence in ladders, right? How much time could we spend getting excellent at ladders?
Yeah.
I mean, you could spend a lot of time doing that.
Sure.
Our search and rescue, all of that stuff, you could spend a lot of time getting great at that stuff. But then we have all this other stuff that kind of impedes on that, right? And we'll probably get to that. But I just tell them, I expect you to be great at those things, and I'll give you the space and the time so we can work on this and become great together, because I need some of that too, right?
Yeah.
I need inspiration with a younger employee to get me there too.
You know, the interesting thing about, you know, having those expectations, at the same time, I remember, you know, I've been doing this about a minute, you know, the whole firefighting thing. And I remember, you know, on probation, you're almost timid. You know, you know what your expectation is, that you pull the hose line the door and, you know, pop the door or whatever, but you're nervous. It's almost like you have to have that clearance, like look back, like, can I pop the door? Yeah. And I think, you know, kind of what we're getting at here is that if you provide those expectations, and if you provide an atmosphere that they feel like they can succeed in and feel appreciated, that they're just going to do it. They're going to know it's right, and then that goes down the line of, you know, you got to train. And
you got to train.
You got to be confident.
And what keeps rolling around my brain is it's a pretty conscious word, is permission. You know, I think a lot of younger employees, they haven't been given this permission to be a part of the fire service in a really tangible way, right? When I first got in the fire service, we had an older echelon, which is great. But they looked at a younger employee, you had to be here 5-8 years before you can start opening your mouth to start considering things, right? Best practices you may have gotten at a conference. And there's a balance, right? But I think for me with my team is I am very, very clear that you can screw up. And that's the thing is you can make mistakes on the fire ground, because I know what your heart is. I know that you're after the best result like I am, and I'm going to make mistakes, right? We don't accept it. Yeah. We work on it. But I think another thing is that people get so nervous about making this mistake in front of their boss, or however you want to categorize it, that they're going to be somehow, well, you're subpar. And the way I've used it is like, I deal with it. We deal with me. We deal with the engineer. We deal with the hosman, and then I forget about it. It's gone. Sure. You know, I'm not one of these leaders who continues to hold the black book of, well, on this day, you know, they did this. Yeah, they're completely off the hook as long as we've dealt with it, though. We've owned it. We've dealt with it. It's off the books then.
Yeah, that kind of makes me think of. I've kind of noticed in my short time that you can. It's almost a fear of that screwing up, like you're talking about, to where guys won't even engage in doing the practice. I remember I went to that nozzle forward class like you spoke about, Aaron Fields. If you guys haven't done that, I would suggest it. I mean, that class was incredible. Aaron Fields, motivated. He's got a great team that he brings fire departments around the nation. It's just so crazy. It's so simple, but yet it is so effective. I mean, it was a 2-day class, and I remember at the end of the second day, I was working with guys I'd never worked with before, and we were moving the hose like 2.5, you know, up and through a multi-story building like it was, you know, a booster line, and like we'd been working together 20 years. Yeah. But anyways, I digress. I remember seeing at that class in 2017 at the firemanship conference in Portland that guys were timid to go up there and when we were advancing the hose forward and screw up. And I honestly feel it too sometimes. And I don't know if it's a pressure that we put on ourselves. I don't know if it's a culture necessarily as the fire service, but I think as a fireman we can't be afraid of it. You know, you're going to get made fun of regardless. I get made fun of more times than not in a day, and you just have to go for it, because at the end of the day, you know what is worse than getting made fun of? Having your brother or sister come up to you and be like, "Hey, you really let me down on that call." Like, I got maybe a burn or something serious or not so serious, but you just don't want to have that happen on that serious on that call. What do you think about that, John?
Well, I was going to say, Seth, you've been training captain for multiple academies. I don't know how many you've done. Is it 4?
3 with another one in May.
Yeah,
so
3 another one in May.
Be on my 4th.
And then also, you've recently developed kind of a new training model down at Medford. And I think the way you've set it up has something to do with being able to make those mistakes, and kind of it's related to a cultural thing. Because I think all of us, whether you work for Eugene Springfield or you work for Medford or wherever you're at, there's this pressure that you don't want to be seen, not doing a great job.
Yeah.
And that's just not human, right? So humans are going to make mistakes. So if you could touch a little bit about kind of changing the culture or mindset, and how you've developed, kind of a shift through training, not only in the academy, but more importantly, the people that are already firefighters, they've been firefighters for multiple years. They don't want to be seen making mistakes because they're professional firefighters, right?
Yeah.
But tell us your perspective on that, and kind of how you've made a shift to make it a better training environment.
Right. So what we were noticing is that our call volumes are picking up. Now, we're not even near close what Eugene Springfield is, but there's this disruptive nature with call volumes that we cannot commit to this excellence in the fire service, right? We say the word, but what does it look like? It's very difficult. So I came up here for my last captain's evaluation, and I worked with your crew specifically on doing size-ups, right? And I was immediately impressed with the level of mentorship that goes on up here at Eugene Springfield. Just like wholehearted, wholesale, like we'll do everything we can to make you great. And that was super impressive. And so I took that nugget back with me home, and it really touched me. I sat down with a piece of paper. I'm like, how do I take my football experience with coaching a mentor? How do I take my experience with Eugene Springfield? How do I put it in something that's tangible that can help us train more effectively? And it all came back to us, the firefighters, the engineers, the captains. Like, we have such a brain, just a huge brain of people that have had amazing experiences that are real-world experiences. And I did that transparency with what kind of training have I experienced in the past. And I've experienced this failure training, right? Raise your hand if you've experienced some failure training, right? That's super easy to develop a failure training. I can do that 30 seconds. I can make you fail in a scenario. How about this? How do we create genuine training that's very thoughtful, that makes you get some friction points, stuff we've experienced on the fire ground, but it doesn't break your confidence, and you get some learning tips out of it, right? And undisrupted for 1 hour. Like, how do we do that? So it took a lot of thought process, and I said, okay, it comes down to not me. It comes down to a group of individuals, and maybe the listeners can think of those people, like who's coaches and mentors, like naturally around me, right? I can pick out 5 or 10 right now in my mind. So I want those people. I want to bring those people into a fold to create training for us, basically by us. And so that's what Emerge is called, this peer mentorship process that we've been doing for a year and a half. And so we get a group of guys into a think tank. We get an acquired structure, and we get not a blank check, but we get a pretty hefty amount that's allocated towards this training, right? Through a lot of hard work and diligent information.
Yep.
And the goals are let's create the best training we can, quality-wise, for our engine companies, truck companies coming through. And you have a good group of guys that get along. We have a lot of fun together. It's a good team, right? And that reflects in the training. So then we develop something that's based on 4 to 5 skills. It's not so much a scenario-based thing where we're so focused on cerebral activities. We're focused on pulling great hose, forcing the doors, doing tangible, good search and rescue techniques, vendor search stuff, right? So we set up the stage for them to enjoy this, and we basically use an internal customer platform. We are going to serve the customer like Mrs. Smith at 2 in the morning when we do extras for her on an EMS call. We apply that same principle to our internal customers, our engines coming through. That means we pack the hose for them. That means all they have to do is show up, go game speed, drink some water, and go home. It's a lot of stress on us to do that, but it works really, really good. Then we're able to give you a tangible feel for how you did. Really like heartfelt, man. We're not trying to be a-holes. We're just trying to give you the good stuff so you can go back and talk about it and get better every day. So we were able to achieve that, and I'm here to say we have 100% success with this program. And we still have the 30-year crusty engineers. We have the contrarians. We have everything in between, right? And they're all agreeing that this process is very, very good. So that's like an overview. I mean, there's a lot of specifics there and other tertiary information that we get out of it, but that's kind of what we've evolved to.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So through that training, and just to touch a little bit, when you found, the battalion chief level, when they were observing this training, did you feel as if they want to put a letter grade on that training, and it kind of promotes an environment that we want you to be able to train freely, we want you to be able to make mistakes, and we want you to be able to learn from those mistakes, because we all know if we've made a mistake on a training evolution or in real life, we already know that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that kind of creates a good atmosphere of like, we're all professional firefighters here, but we are going to make mistakes. And once you add an element that if you perceive that you're being graded, by one of your you respect the chiefs. You want to do well for them, right?
Without a doubt.
But as soon as you start to put people in a training environment where they feel like they're being evaluated, like on a letter grade, or number grade situation, they don't quite operate as freely as they would, on a normal fire ground.
Yeah, we call it, we're categorized that as performance picture. We want the most valid performance picture of how our crews are actually performing. And when you show up to a training, you're like, oh, it's John, it's Jeremy. I mean, these guys are cool as hell. Like, I can just go be a fireman.
Know about that.
Yeah, well, you know the kind of personalities you show up, you're like, oh, this is going to be a freaking micrometer dose of checkboards and stopwatches, right? And we're immediately already stressed out, as opposed to, guys, this is just, we've made the playground for you. Feel free to make mistakes, right? We want you to make mistakes. Do what you do in real life, because we're trying to capture that real life performance, right? Mm-hmm. So we had acquired structure as a little crack house structure, and people are like, what can you do with the structure? We have metal door inserts that we're able to put in, forcible door in different places, and we got a bunch of aluminum frame from Habitat for Humanity, a bunch of frames to do vendor searches for first floor, right? So we're saying, how does our vendor search or vendor isolate search, how is our policy actually doing? Like, how does it mirror the real world? And so we're able to kind of practice and vet our policies to see which crews are being successful. And what we found was guys that are following to the T, the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, we're not being efficient and we're not being successful. But those crews that just took it as real world, tied the ears back and got after it safely, mind you, we're killing it. So then we can take that performance information and we can send that up to our training division and say, here are the values, here's where we're missing the boat. It's super valid. And the last part of this is confidentiality. I can't stress that enough. That's a big part of this, because oftentimes people are afraid to make mistakes because they're going to be talked about in an unprofessional manner. So our team collectively, we sign a contract that if you talk at a church about this, if you're using names and you're using A6, you're off the team. You're out, because that will kill our street cred like that. And so we really hold tight, like how individual crews have done. Names are not involved. It's just a lessons learned demographic that we get to training. And so what we're seeing over the year and a half, we're seeing guys getting game speed. They are committing, instead of doing another one of these dog and pony shows, They're off the rig. They're going fast. They're demonstrating for us what our true capability is as an organization. And to be honest, it's like super impressive, and it's intoxicating to see that, 30-year engineers crawling around doing a search on a primary, right, on their hands and knees. I mean, that's a pretty cool validation of the process.
Sure. Do you guys do like a verbal or like a written explanation afterwards, like as a crew, to figure out what you identified those weak spots? Or
as John said, like we all know, thumbs up, thumbs down initially on our own performances, right? But what we're trying to do is get an environment where I don't know how many after-action reviews you've been a part of, maybe many. And my first, experience with that was, we're talking about radio comms. We're talking about safe islands here, things that don't really point an individual out on individual performance, right? And we want to create an environment where I, Seth McEwen, raise my hand and be like, hey, guys, I did this. And it was stupid, and I don't want any of you guys. So learn from my mistake right now, because not everyone can see everything all at once, right? Mm-hmm. Some of you know personally what you made a mistake is. So we want to create an environment where employees can say, "Yeah, I screwed up. Don't do this," and not be ridiculed. Yeah. You know how people are already coming up with a series of explanations, because we're fairly smart, on why they made the tactical decision they made. Have you ever been a part of that? Have you ever seen that? And you're watching that going, dude, just say you screwed up. Yeah. That's going to alleviate a lot of this. You're losing a lot of credibility with me right now, because you are explaining away a tactical or a personal skill set that was not where it needed to be.
Explaining / excuses.
Yes, exactly. And so, but we want to create an environment where employees can feel very confident that they can do that without having, and so we're not writing it down. It's verbal and then it's gone.
Okay.
You know, we don't want anything on record. That's not a part of this. We are taking tabulations of where we need to reinforce for future, skills rodeos or whatever you want to call them. We want to get that future catch up to slack, right? If it's forcible entry has been kind of lacking, then maybe we'll do a forcible entry thing where it's everything forcible entry just for an hour, boom, 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 popping doors and getting after it.
Have you, with this new kind of model, have you experienced, in sports, like if you're going to have a successful team, everybody's got to sell into that mission of that team. Have you experienced, not everybody, fully diving in with what this change is, or,
No, I think all of us have been in a drought. Because of the increasing demand for us in the fire service, right? We are expected to be an all hazards fire department, which we've got to take care of hazmat, we've got to take care of DPSST requirements and federal requirements, right? And so that kind of squeezes out these basic firefighter skill values that, back in the day we trained until we were sick. Like, I'm tired of doing this. But I think we're seeing a change where people are hungry for having these skill sets. So the only complaints we have is that the engineers want more involvement. They want to have a part of that challenge piece. They want to be challenged during these scenarios, which we try to get. But that's another thing. Is like, hey, I don't want to set the pump panel. Give me something. Give me a conditions change. Give me a pumping scenario that's going to challenge me as well. That's all we've had is people wanting more, more and more and more. And then also understanding that we don't want to alienate our battalion chiefs from the process, and that's not the case. We are just dedicated to getting the best quality feedback we can for those crews rotating through, because now it on the fire ground we're going to see those results. I know we will see those results, that pickup in pace and performance.
I know you just said that everyone seems to be full tilt, all in with what's going on. Maybe in the future, let's just say hypothetically, you encounter somebody that isn't all about training. There are those guys out there or gals, and that that their priority is not running that call or doing as little as possible. How do you plan on facing that? Someone that isn't about that training that obviously is very important to you.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we always come back to the peer pressure thing, right? Me as an individual, a 30-year veteran, I'm not going to sit down with them and have a come to Jesus talk. But if I can get two of their crew members to be 100% behind it, then I know out of just we are in this industry for a reason, right? And even your most cantankerous person can still be inspired. I truly believe that. I truly believe there's always a sliver of inspiration in everybody. And then we're team players. When we have two employees that are going after it and they are not making excuses, I almost guarantee you that person will begrudgingly have to buy in over time, right? This is not a 2-week deal. This is a long-term outcome. And if here's the thing, is if it's quality training, which it has to be, and we get feedback from them, like we ask them, we put out Survey Monkeys, we are constantly trying to field any and all considerations. Everything, give it to us. I don't even care if it's like pick and fly out of the soup. We want to know how we're serving you guys, because that's why we're here. So if we come up with quality training that's well vetted, that's simplistic and genuine, we find that even the most salty dog loves it.
Yeah.
Because it is so heartfelt. We're doing it because we care about you guys, and we're busting our ass out there sweating, and we're loading your hose, and we are serving you so much stuff that you have no choice but to be behind it. Is kind of what our philosophy is.
Yeah. There's something to be said. Pulling hose, being out there with your crew, and hopefully learning something. I haven't had an experience yet where I didn't feel good. To an extent afterwards, whether it was physically, emotionally, or whatever. It something just feels good to be out there and doing what we train and training what we do. So it's definitely a good time.
And it gives captains an opportunity to have informal conversations with their crew, right? Like if we're sitting there running calls all day, we don't really get that information sometimes. And you don't want to hey guys, we're going to talk at the table and I'm going to let you know how I don't think things are going well. This is a great icebreaker to give, leaders and their team an opportunity or foothold to just have a really frank, straightforward conversation.
How do you, you're talking about the call volume going up, and something that we experience here, some stations busier than others.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out there to train sometimes.
Right.
have you, necessarily found a solution for that, or have found something that is helping you get out to train? Or
it's that protected hour, right? We through the peer mentorship process, we told the admin we can get this done in 1 hour.
Oh,
it's 1 hour and we're done. I mean, they are available at 60 minutes. There's no excuses, and so we're definitely under the gun, and it's a stress that we have as facilitators to get that done. And so the admin has stepped up and said, okay, we'll take our training blocks. We'll give you, twice a quarter. We're going to give you that protected hour a day, and to cycle as many, it's 3 days of training, right? And there's some overtime. And the caveat is that good training costs money, excellent training costs a lot of money. So that's a little prohibitive, because we do have to get the right team there, and so that precipitates overtime and a bunch of other stuff above my pay grade. But in the end, that protected hour has been our solution.
Yeah.
And crews are like super stoked, because now they're out of the system for that hour and they can go hog wild and get what they need to get, and then they get in their engines and they go home.
Yeah, that's awesome. Get back to the house and get some chow, and maybe keep talking about it.
We see a lot of that.
Talk.
We see the table talk that's generated from this. We had a acquired structure that had a basement in it, and so we did a basement fire. We rarely get to do that, and there was so much great communication that came out of that, as far as crews, talking to each other, and it was. And I'm not trying to sell this as this perfect dream. I mean, this has been my experience. I'm not trying to sell this. I don't have a program that I'm trying to market. I'm just sharing the facts of what, and I have a lot of ears out there, like we all do. The guys you trust, gals you trust, like, tell me what you're hearing. And I mean, it's all just, we need more of it. That's what we keep hearing.
Yeah. Yeah. John, you okay over there?
I'm totally cool. I'm taking this in.
You're like, I can't believe.
I want to go train right now.
Yeah.
You look ready to go.
I feel ready.
Halfway through this thing, this is fun.
Yeah, I love it. It's going well so far.
Seth, what motivates you? What wakes you up, gets you going for the day, whether it be a day off or you're going to work.
I'll just use a physiology to describe. I have a burning sensation in my stomach area. It might be an ulcer, I'm not sure. But it's that burning sensation that just I don't know, I wake up, I just feel like this, like I got to go do something. I've got to go be productive. But beyond that, I think John, he's been this way, is like, what motivates me is when I see success in other people around me. I cannot, I mean, it's not to get too emotional, but it is emotional for me.
Yeah.
When I've had a hand in that, or they've had a hand in developing me, like, I'm always just so grateful and appreciative of that. So when you're on the hook, personally, when you step up to say, I want to assist people with becoming great, then it puts a lot of accountability on me as well. And having that accountability means I have to do a little extra, to be knowledgeable, not subject matter expert, but to be knowledgeable enough to guide people with those tough questions. Because as you're probably finding out with FTEP, people come with some really difficult questions where, it's some uncharted, territory, and you have to, at least I try to be super diligent with giving them, the right information, right?
Sure.
No misinformation, just the skinny straight on it.
Yeah, I was listening to something the other day, and they talked about having a plan out there, and making sure every step of the way you have something, because if it ever comes out of your mouth, just do it because I told you to.
Yeah.
It conveys to them that maybe you don't have a solid plan under your belt for what needs to come up. So. Yeah,
that's a big part of it, and I just I hate to say if there's anybody that doesn't enjoy that, but one of the things I notice the fire service is competitive, right? And you start to see competition overshadowing helping people get better. And I that's one thing that's a timeout for me. If I ever see that, like, I squash it. Like, I got no stomach for any kind of underhanded bull when it comes to notes or information, or I'm an open book. You can have my Captain's notes. You can have whatever you want. Like, I want everyone to have the knowledge, whatever knowledge I have. I want them to all have it and use it, and not just pick, that's the golden child, or this is the up and mover. Like, I think everybody should have a fair opportunity to get the information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because truly, you're only as good as the person, next to you, right? When it comes to
that's so true.
Fighting fires or being on a medical scene, we want everyone to be as good as they possibly can be, right? We shouldn't let people flounder. We should be able to share all the information that we can that we have at our disposal to bring the entire level of everybody, as high as we can possibly do to function at the highest level we can to provide the services that our communities they depend on. I mean, when they call, for the fire department, they want you to show up and they want you to be operators. So we should support that, supporting each other.
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing that I like to, it kind of falls in line with what you're saying. I like to share information. I'm only as good as the person right next to me or the person I'm, in the fire with.
John, kind of backtracking a little bit. A question for you. Grew up with your brother, obviously. Any different motivation factor for you that drives you?
Yeah. So I also athletics. Beyond high school, I played football in college as well, and then I competed at the Olympic level, I guess you can say, or world level in track and field. And through those experiences, kind of forged who I am. With football and track and field, football being a team sport, which is awesome. Track and field being more of an individual sport, but throwing the hammer is very technical. People took me under their wing, right, and taught me the correct ways to do things, how to train, how to lift. Having the right diet, having the right sleep, all that stuff. So my motivation is to honestly be the best that I can be so I can contribute to the team, as best I can, right? I do not want to be, a weak link, right? So I want to be someone that's going to be there and I can, fill whatever role I am in that team atmosphere, and that's what we operate in. We all have our strengths, we all have our weaknesses, and I'm continually trying to get better, on the weaknesses that I do have. But I truly want to pay it forward. My motivation also, like my brother, is I really, really love people to succeed. I want to help them to do that. And I don't, necessarily gain my identity through that. Mm-hmm. I don't hang my hat on that. But it just feels, it feels awesome to be, a part of a group that is mindful and they contribute to just the success in entirety. Specifically in our field, this is an area, the things that we do, that really, if you elevate everybody's level of knowledge and skills, if you are against that, then what the heck?
Yeah,
that's
what are you doing here?
Wrong career field to be in, right?
Do you guys? I just recently started doing this. I started writing down goals because I noticed that, man, I love to dream, but execution is maybe lacking for me, and I was just kind of curious. Do you guys write down goals? Do you guys just kind of mentally know, or you just all of a sudden you're like, I want to do this. Okay, fifth gear, here we go. Mm-hmm.
I don't write down goals. What I do is I just work my ever level right ass off, and it seems like every time when you do that, great things happen. Right.
Yeah.
It's specific goals are great. In football they used to do that. We had to write it down. They'd laminate the card, and we would do that affirmation, which is it works.
Yeah.
But there's no replacement for just hard work. We have a lot of talent. There's a lot of smart people out there that do nothing. I think it's the blue collar, just working every day, all day, and then you find an opportunity, and then you've somehow miraculously aligned yourself for it. Because some people set the goals so high that they end up getting discouraged, right, when they don't meet that goal, and then that whole persistent attitude tends to be, watered down. And I think that's their thing. Is just super, persistent. I've been passed over in promotions multiple times, and you go through those scenarios. But what's your commitment? What's your persistence to stay positive?
Sure.
and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's sometimes you go through those those hardships or whatnot, and it's almost like they're. You might have your down moment, but then all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm going even harder.
Yeah, lick your wounds, but then you got to get back, engaged.
Yeah. So John and I have talked about this. He was telling me about something you did in academy, the zip line training.
Right.
I was watching on the old Facebook interwebs the other day how some departments are doing things differently. I think it was down in maybe Sacramento. They built like a room in that's what they did that day in academy, and they learned building construction while doing it, and then they burned it, and it was really rad to see. But it sounds like the zipline training is also pretty progressive, I would say.
Yeah, we're always looking for opportunities to bring teams together, right, as fast as we can. I mean, you can't really force it, but we're looking for those unique opportunities like you looked at. And we have, through our Parks Association, they have this huge obstacle course up on Roxanne. And they have, these climbing walls that you're climbing up 40 feet through chain and all sorts of stuff. They have a trapeze where you stand 30 feet and you jump out and have to grab the trapeze, and we have different challenges throughout that time, team building exercises. And what we find is that it's a fear factor. We there's no other way to build a team better than going through some shit together, right?
Yeah.
Agree or disagree?
Yeah.
I mean, boy, there's just no other way. But how do we get that, right? How do we get people? Well, we got to get them in situations they're uncomfortable. And believe it or not, it's very uncomfortable to be 30 feet up on a little platform, 12 by 12, jumping out to a trapeze that you're probably not going to catch, and having people on belay that are there to make sure you don't hit the ground, especially when you're a big man. I mean, it's pretty. But I do it with recruits. I do everything with them. I make sure that we do it together. And what we find is that we're building that trust. And I think coming way long ago, when we first started discussion, is what's leadership, what's team, and it's that trust thing, right?
Yeah.
And we're able to start that inception of getting the recruits to trust each other early and often. So now we can get that out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any good, bad, funny experiences that you had in academy personally? Maybe not in your training atmosphere, but maybe coming up. Anything that sticks out for you that maybe molded you or.
Yeah, I think I was a fireman in Colorado, and it was a very 3-month academy. We lost 3 people, quit. So it was pretty tough. It was mirrored after Denver's academy, which was just ridiculous. And they had us. We had a responsibility, which was an old nozzle. They gave each team of 3 a nozzle, and you had to paint it. You had to make it your own. And then they gave us a recorder, like a flute.
What?
And they, and so if you left your responsibility without asking permission, like, they would get it, and then they could spray paint it pink, and ruin all this meticulous work you did on it.
Oh.
And I remember they came in and they stormed in. They're like, "We got to get out there right now!" And just did a shock and awe tour on us, and we all just took off. And so everyone leaves, and I was with some webbing on it, and I grab one, and the instructor grabs it at the same time, and now we're staring at each other. And he goes, "You release it." I'm like, "No." He goes, "Release it now." I go, "I will not." He goes, "You will release it now." I go, "I will not release it." And then everyone's just kind of standing there staring at us like, "Holy, what's going to happen?"
Oh,
because I was pissed, for one.
Yeah.
And 2, I just wasn't, this is my team's thing, and so I was thinking about my other 2 teammates, and like, by God, if they're going to run me to death, well, I'm going to freaking die on this hill right now.
Yeah.
And so it got pretty tense. They diffused the situation. I did end up losing my responsibility, ended up getting painted. So then I'll never forget, every academy has the employee,
Yeah.
love them to death, but they're like, that dog that's always doing it wrong.
Sure.
And so they found some safety glasses, and whose safety glasses were these? And finally it was him. We just knew it. And so then they made us play our recorders. So, like, you got to come up with a song to get out of the punishment. Each team has to come up with a song, and you've got to play it for us. And I will never forget, it was like an 80s butt rock song that one of, I can't remember who it was, but they played it like with perfection. I'm like, I cannot believe, just the diversity of teams. Sometimes you just never know whose different talents are there. But that was one of my experiences during that time.
That's pretty classic. That's one thing the fire service definitely not short of having these hidden talents, like you said.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I really enjoy about the fire service.
I saw a video of a guy that just recently got off a probation here, and he's an amazing juggler. And it seems like every day his engineer is posting videos of him juggling whatever food they're eating that day. And, it's pancakes, pizza. It's just – and, I mean, the guy's a rock star at it. It's pretty entertaining. John, anything that sticks out for you in academy?
Oh, shoot. I've had a lot of really good, bad, and funny experiences. When I went through the academy here, I obviously got injured. I tore my pec major doing a drill. But out of that came a lot of good.
Yeah.
I spent some time in training doing light duty stuff, so I learned a lot from a lot of really cool captains and engineer Dagelman, obviously. I was able to contribute, to develop some some things for the next academy coming in. And so that was a bad experience that turned into good.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of funny experiences. I can't really – me and John Cullen were injured together, so we had a little bit of an argument over how to operate the forklift one day, and it was hilarious. He knows what I'm talking about. I won't go into detail, but it was every time I see him, I yell "forks up," and he knows exactly what that's about. Almost turned into fisticuffs in the middle of the drill field over how to operate the. And he was right. I'll say that. He was totally right.
Yeah, I remember. It wasn't an academy, but it was right out of academy. You know, and you're online, and it seems like everything that you're doing, you can't do it right. You're just, and it's not necessarily maybe your crew picking on you, but you know wholeheartedly, you're like, I can't even grab a fork and eat this food. Like, I'm gonna poke myself in the eye. And I remember I was going off shift. It was like one of the first couple shifts, and I was in my street clothes, and I was like, oh no, did I remember to fill up the saw with some fuel? And I'm like, oh no, I do not want to be that guy.
Nope.
So I like ran down there, and all the crews were down there and doing their checkoffs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they haven't gotten to that compartment yet. And they hadn't. And I was like, oh, thank you. So I pull the saw out, and I open up the fuel tank, and I'm like, oh, okay, cap's it's full. I'm like, oh, I did it. Yeah. So I closed the cap. And at the time, I think at some point the engineer had thrown the off-going engineer's bunker bottoms down in front of me. I hadn't seen it yet. And I went to turn to go back to the compartment, and I tripped over these bunkers. And the chainsaw, my mistake, I did not put that cap back on right. And fuel everywhere.
Oh boy.
All over street clothes, all over the bay, which was not a fast cleanup, and it was right in front of the oncoming captain, and he just looked at me, and him and I think we have an unspoken thing that we have not talked about.
Like not touching it.
It was definitely an experience. I was like, oh man, I just one of those days, I guess. So, you know, you got all these different things going on in training, and I would almost venture out to say that they're different than what maybe has been before you. Maybe not to an extreme level,
No.
but maybe just a little bit different than the traditional. What do you think about the saying, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? You know,
Right.
it's you got a good, let's say, a good academy coming through
Mm-hmm.
each time, but you're like, can we make it better? You know,
Yeah.
is there some relevancy to that, or is it, you know, maybe just putting one too many, you know, roosters in the hen house? You're
Sure.
just causing more of a ruckus than anything.
Yeah. You know, I just keep coming back to the idea that, you know, what's excellence mean in the fire service? You know, change to change. No, I don't want to do that either.
Yeah.
You know, but it always comes back to best practices. Are we using what's best out there? Are we using the tools that other people maybe are having success with to use it, and also honoring our tradition? Right.
Yeah.
I'm not an anti-tradition guy whatsoever. I'm a craftsman guy. I love firefighter work through and through, but I'm personally always striving for what's the next step in becoming excellent within this domain.
Yeah. When you're training, whether it's at the firehouse, whether it's in the gym, or any sort of activity, does your mentality change? You know, or are you shifting gears and taking a lower gear in the sense of not going as hard, or are you just always full speed? You know, the blue collar like you talked about earlier.
Yeah, I don't know any other speed but full speed.
Okay.
You know, that's always been, you know, they had to kick me out of practice multiple times at U of O. You know, we're in half pads, I'm cleaning people's clocks. And I don't know any other speed. Well, I am getting a little bit older, so my body can limit a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think as far as the mentality training goes, I think enthusiasm on the fire ground is something we don't necessarily do a lot of. And I think that's a really important key, is instead of being these stoic instructors who are kind of like, oh, I'm scared of that guy, you know, what if we turn that around and said, I'm going to be an encouraging, excited, positive instructor for you today. And I'm going to try to, you know, ease the tension so I can get a good performance picture. We always come back to that. And I think that's what I kind of click. You know, you have your in-the-office stuff, the overdressed secretary stuff. Then you have on the field stuff where you just want to be super excited about it. And if your team can't bring the excitement, I think it's on the leader.
Yeah.
Oftentimes to bring that excitement to them, you know, and that's more of a football principle. The coaches always find a way to be positive in the middle of double days. You know, it's 90 degrees. They had to find a way to keep us motivated. So I kind of take a sliver of that and try to apply it to the fire service. Not wackiness, you know, not like running around like some sort of cheerleader, but bringing that enthusiasm to whatever we're doing.
Sometimes if it almost would come across, you know, that you're not invested in what you're doing if maybe there wasn't a little bit of enthusiasm into it. So your father, how many kiddos you got?
I have 2 daughters and a 3rd daughter on the way.
Congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. Are you a different kind of leader at home? You know, are you still kind of going under the same mindset, or are you kind of have to shift gears when you come home?
Well, I think all of us have to do a healthy shutoff when we walk through the front door. You know, I make sure I look in the mirror in my rear view, and I make sure that I don't have a fierce face on.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes maybe you've had a really tough shift, and I try, smile, breathe, relax yourself, because, you know, my daughters are super important that I bring to them a very positive, calm, masculine presence. And that's what changes. I can't come in there, you know, ruckusing and about and having this command presence thing going on. I just don't fly.
Yeah.
But at the same token, you know, there are structure. You know, we are very structured in our home life as well. And the girls seem to really like that. At least they have a predictable environment. And that's the same way I come to the captain's work, right? If your captain is having a bad day, everybody's having a bad day, right?
Mm-hmm.
The engineer and the firefighter sometimes can have off days. They can go hide in their room. But when your leader is having a bad day, then everyone's kind of like walking on eggshells. And so I don't want to be that guy. And so I try to, you know, do that at work, be very consistent. And at home, have the same consistency and expectation. But mostly I'm just a big teddy bear. You know, I'm just like a big jungle gym for them to, you know, have fun with. And I can kind of let the facade down a lot around my kids and just be that fun-loving father. With some expectations, though, right?
Yeah, sure. Sometimes it's a little hard to turn it off, and you almost forget sometimes. You know, you kind of drag home whatever it is you might have experienced, and you know, I think there might be a healthy level of venting to your significant other.
Sure.
But yeah, it's interesting. You know, I don't have kids, so I was kind of curious. You know, as a leader at home, possibly, you know, what's going on there. John, do you concur?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've got 2 boys, so you know, rambunctious boys. I you know, sometimes have to, you know, get them. It's like bumper bowling, right? But, you know, I do have structure because they enjoy the structure, right? They just want to know the expectations. And I'm a fun-loving father. I love my kids.
Yeah.
They love me. You know, we express that. You know, it's good to have that knowledge of your dad loving you and having a really good, stable environment at home. So, but I do the same thing. After a rough day, I kind of collect myself and I walk in with a smile. That way they know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't stress them out.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. We have a lightning round.
All right.
Manny, cue the lightning round effect.
Lightning round's in effect.
It's started.
I kind of think, you know, we need to give Manny a pretty sweet nickname. He's the man behind the camera and the recording here. You know,
he's supporting all of this.
Yes,
really.
He is the key to this whole thing. But anyways, all right, lightning round.
All right.
Holy moly. Seth.
Yes.
What are you bad at?
I swear a lot.
Okay. Good talk. John, what are you bad at?
Math.
Math. Okay. Seth, what skill, you know, would you like to master? You see somebody do it and you're like, I gotta do this.
Mountain snowmobiling.
Snowmobiling.
Mountain snowmobiling.
None
of this trail. I'm talking in the deep. As there's some listeners out there will know what I'm talking about.
What you got to tell me more about it. I have no idea what mountain snowmobiling.
We got to do another podcast to cover that. But it is quadding, it's dirt biking in the dunes, and it's all that mixed into a jet ski. That's snowmobiling on snow.
Yeah, no brakes.
With no brakes, topography. I mean, it's amazing. There are dudes out there that will be, and gals that will be nodding their head like this. He knows.
This
but it's super challenging. It's probably one of the most challenging things I've ever done.
Really?
Yep. Absolutely.
First couple times you're going like 3 miles an hour, you're like, oh.
It's indescribable how difficult it is.
Interesting. Never heard, never knew. John, skill?
I don't know, some sort of musical instrument. I don't know exactly, but I'm not very musically inclined. But I've always been attracted to or wanting to play a musical instrument. Maybe drums. Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like you could really hammer down on some drums.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like every time the pipes and drums go out, like you break the drum.
Boom.
Well, John's out. He broke the drum again. What age, Seth, did you decide you wanted to be a fireman?
Boy, we burned up those juniper bushes one time in front of the house and melted our shoes.
And the fire chief had to come
talk to us. So, I guess around, 6-ish, somewhere around there.
Oh, wow. You're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, what do you?
Yeah, same thing. Like
same time?
Yeah, we lit the neighbor's yard on fire, and then we had right around the same time. I'm 5 years older, so I was 11 at the time. So, yep.
I remember when I was younger, I think our furnace or something caught on fire in the middle of the night, and our house was a 2-story house. It was not the best house in the world, that's for sure, which hence the furnace catching on fire. But I remember we had an alarm because we lived in a pretty bad neighborhood, and the alarm went off in the middle of the night, or at least so we thought. And I remember looking down the hallway, and I could see my mom or dad pressing the buttons to turn the alarm off. Well, the alarm kept never turning off, and then all of a sudden smoke started coming up to that 2nd story, and we're like, oh no. And I remember the tiller truck came in there, and I was like, this is awesome. This is it.
That's what I want.
Yeah, good times. All right, really serious question here. Let's shift gears. Describe as clear as you can the color yellow.
The color yellow. I'm going to bring it to the olfactory system. I want the listeners to envision the scene where you walk into an elder care home and perhaps, a foster care home, and you have that bedpan that's been sitting there for quite a while, that ammonia type smell. And when you look into it, you see, amber yellowish liquid, also known as urine.
Yes.
I think they're doing this right now. They're understanding this. They're having their senses.
They smell it.
They smell this. They can see the yellow. So there you go.
Oh, man. Yeah. Have you personally screwed up cooking a meal at the firehouse?
I take great pains to not do that as a probationary.
Sure.
You cook it at home before you even show up.
Yeah.
You're eating 2 meals. I will share with you, though, in Colorado, they do not sell full-strength alcohol on the weekends, and particularly Sunday. And so when you're a new guy and you get tasked with buying all the alcohol for a Super Bowl party and you're not privy or a Coloradoan, you don't know that they lock up everything and they have like that, I forget what they call it. It's like near beer. They have a different name for it. It's like 80-20.
Like O'Doul's.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's all they have.
Yum.
And so you're at the store trying to facilitate beverages, and you're sitting there going, oh, my God, I've got to be at a Super Bowl party, and I cannot get any alcohol. So I'll always remember that because I show up with a bunch of soda, and it just did not go well.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
John, you have anything sticking out?
No, I was like my brother. I pre-made stuff, so I would make like enchiladas or like lasagna. I'd pre-make it. So that's one pile of stuff I did not want to step in. So luckily I haven't messed up yet.
You guys are lucky because it seems like I'll go in the shift and I just go in confident. And I don't know. Pressure gets a hold of me. I don't have ice in my veins. All of a sudden, I'm looking around. People are standing, right around.
They're hungry.
They're
staring.
And you're like, oh. And it's just been a nightmare the whole time I've been here. I just can't get it together. I think what started off on probation, the captain at the time, he went paleo, and I was not well versed in what paleo was. I mean,
right.
I ate Costco dogs.
Sounds cool.
So yeah. So I snuck off into the room, looked up the computer. I'm like, what's paleo? I'm like, okay, paleo. All right. I was like, quick paleo recipe, and I was like, oh, I'll do spaghetti squash with some.
Oh wow.
With some I don't know.
It's ambitious.
Yeah, apparently it was. And I didn't know at the time, because, super knowledgeable millennial here, that I had grabbed butternut squash.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know spaghetti squash was a thing. I thought you made it.
Right.
So what ended up coming out of that dinner was, because it was like a pesto spaghetti squash, like meatball thing, and it ended up coming out green baby food or green poop.
Oh.
And I'll never forget the firefighter at the time. He said, "This is the worst meal I've ever."
You screwed it up.
And at the station I was at, we have Frankie. He is incredible cook. The Felino family just crushes every meal they do. So I had a lot to live up to, and I went below the level that was probably expected.
It happens. It happens.
What's more important to you to have on your crew? Great cook or kind of a funny crew where you just know when you walk in you're not going to be able to keep a straight face all day.
It's a tough one, but funny crew.
Yeah.
You know, I'm willing to eat some pretty drab food for just, you know, having that team camaraderie, that whole, you know, when it clicks, it clicks. I don't know how else to say it. When it clicks, and it's every day you're driving to work with a smile on your face. Can't wait to hang out.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's definitely. I mean, John came down to Station 1 the other day, and you just knew it was like this is gonna be a good day.
Yeah.
There's gonna be lots of laughs.
Lots of laughs, lots of fun.
What about you, John? Great cook, funny crew.
I think we need to just both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always a funny crew.
Yeah.
That's heavily more heavily weighted, but good food does not suck.
Yeah, that's. I've been spoiled. My career. I've had great cooks. You know, even at home, crushing it. All right. If you had a boat, what would you name it?
Yeah, I actually am a sailor.
So you got a boat.
You sailor, you.
Yeah, I don't have a boat. I rent boats up in the San Juans for about a week. You know, those big $500,000 boats.
Yeah.
I went through certification to get there. So this is actually a really good question.
Sweet.
If I had my own boat, it would be called the Sea Serpent.
Awesome.
Yep.
Sailing vessel Sea Serpent.
Awesome. John?
I have no idea.
What?
I have no idea what I'd
You've
name a
never
boat.
thought of this.
A motorboat. That's what I call it.
Yeah. I have the Green Monster. It's a little 14-foot flat bottom aluminum. Take it down the Mighty Willamette. It's the most dangerous thing I think you can do out there.
Wow.
Especially late duck hunting season. There's trees going down there. Like you're pitch black. It's pretty frightening.
Dangerous.
Seth, before we sign out of here, is there anything else you want to add, you want to talk about, or?
No, I'm just really grateful for the experience here with you guys, and I can't speak highly enough of my experience, you know, back in the FTEP days with Eugene Springfield. It's been really great. You guys have a great organization, and just really happy to be part of your maiden voyage here on this podcast.
Trash Fire 2018.
Trash Fire 2018.
Well, Seth, we honestly really appreciate you being on here. This is kind of an uncharted journey that John and I are trying to start. And your insight and what you talked to us about today was awesome. I'm excited for you guys down there. It would be maybe it's going to spiral into something. Maybe it's going to become sort of regional training. And
who knows? I'm always excited to see what other, you know, having the idea, right? I'm not the oracle here of clairvoyancy here, but I mean, you know, you give it to. I mean, there's so many smart people. You know, even today, like maybe this resonates with somebody, and maybe they say it and they can take it and make it something so much better than my little pea brain can do. And that's what I love about it, is that there's always, whenever you have the people and the talent, which you guys have, that's what it comes down to. If you have a talented fire department, you can really do anything with that sort of idea or training.
Well, Seth, thank you again. John, you want to add anything before we go?
I just want to give a shout out. 4A crew, right?
4A.
Yep, stay strong.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back.
We will be back.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.